thanks to Tinderbox.
Hang on, Bruce. All
Oh,
right,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mark.
Yeah. Hey, it's February already. It's Saturday, February 1st. This is Tinderbox Meetup with Michael Becker. I'm Mark Bernstein, the designer of Tinderbox. Research is going well, but we should have an interim Tinderbox release next week with some bug fixes and such, particularly the dreaded text attachment bug, which just crashes occasionally and has been going for some time, has been definitively eliminated. So hooray for that.
Is that the copying and pasting from the PDF thing, or is that something different?
No,
All right.
This is pure infrastructure, but it's been a pain in the neck to get because it happens so infrequently. It's difficult to reproduce in the laboratory. But without further delay, here's Michael Becker.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first February meetup. So typically our format is we go around the room and we have new people introduce themselves, and we don't have anyone new today. If we have a theme, we jump into a theme, and we don't have a theme today. So otherwise, we just have a general conversation of projects and things that people are working on. One comment on themes. I should, sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, I'm working with a Denmark-based a personal artificial intelligence company who is going to come and give us a talk about personal AI, and presumably, theoretically, and or even possibly, if we can get it done between now and his talk, how we can use Tinderbox as a means of educating a personal AI. So that will be forthcoming. So that will be super exciting. But until then, let's just jump right into our topics. I've got tons of things I've been working on this week that I'm happy to share and explore, unless somebody else has something else. But we have 2 members here that had a couple problems to solve. So maybe Dave, you can show the challenge that you walked into and kind of talk a little bit about some of the nuances of the flags. And then Bruce, you actually used Tinderbox in a legal expert witness situation this week, and it was really successful for you. So I'd love you to kind of talk about that too. So let's start with Dave.
All right. Well, briefly, 2 things. One is I added a new feature to my blog, Nice Marmot, and it was an on this day type link where you could click on that and you would see all the posts that I'd made on the 1st of February going back to 2013. Not that I've posted on every February 1st in those intervening years. In the process, I discovered a couple of things. One was many of the exported posts lacked all paragraph breaks. And so I was going to ask about it here in the meeting, and in the pre-meeting with Michael, we solved it, but I'll show you where the problem was. And I did nearly everything. Let me go share that Michael mentioned, and it was in the prototype for the post and command 1. So it was going to be an export somewhere. And at that moment, before when this problem exhibited itself, this little check mark had somehow been unchecked, and correcting it was just a matter of ticking that. So without that, all of your text is just one solid block of wall of text, no paragraph breaks. But
can you show us that, Dave? So uncheck it and show us a post, and then let's go and let's walk them through and show how we discover, the discovery process of this, because I think it's really helpful. So you click on a post.
I think it needs to update again or something.
No, you manually probably did that one. So just uncheck it real quick.
Oh, that's right. So uncheck it. So then we go to preview, and you just get this, and that's unreadable and intimidating. And I think it was picking it up because it was assigned the prototype P post, and P post had
before you go back on that, Dave, let's stay there. So when you're looking at something like this, you're instantly saying, okay, my data's not formatting. It's all jumbled together. This doesn't feel right, obviously. And so to his point, Dave's point, it's not human readable. So one of the tricks that Mark Anderson has now finally beat into my brain, whenever you see something going wrong in preview, the very first thing you do is click on Export tab. Because at the end of the day, that's really what matters, is what is Tinderbox processing, what is it exporting, and preview's not, not a full browser. So, and then you can instantly see the problem. There are no paragraph tags around the text. So it's quite obvious. So then you start asking yourself, well, why would there not be paragraph tags on the text? So you open up the inspector, you click the export tab, and you click on markup. We first went to style, actually. Our first step was go to style. No, we went to markup. You're right. First step was go to markup.
Markup, and
And we
everything
were
was
looking
present.
to see if the paragraph tags were there. So this screen shows you, tells Tinderbox, when you start processing a note, wrap paragraphs with paragraph tags.
So
And then
this was blank
and
before.
that was blank.
What does before and after refer to? Because I don't really know.
It's a distinction between the before and after the first paragraph. It's another subset element of HTML. So it's good to have it in there, but it's not absolutely necessary in your
Okay.
context. And then if you hit export, then we clicked over to export and we realized, the markup text Boolean is not checked. And that's why that's happening. So if you now click the markup text Boolean, that's now telling the Tinderbox
Right.
parser to process the text with markup. And so now if you click the export tab,
Yep. All the P's will be in there.
all the P's are in the text. So that explains what's happening. And the one final thing I want to show in this before we have a continued dialogue is this can sometimes be confusing, especially if you're really used to output software like Word and all that stuff, and you don't have a tool that actually lets you see what's happening behind the scenes. If you can do me a favor, click on the number, I think it's Properties Inspector number 4, where it says 4, the one to the right there. Click on Quick Stamp and type HTML markup.
In here?
Yep.
Whoops, I can't.
No caps.
I can't see that well. Markup. Mark.
All right. Right. Markup text. So no, the text.
Okay.
Right. So that is the attribute in Tinderbox that is going to tell Tinderbox whether or not this is markup or mark down text, or whether or not it should mark up the text or not. So you see right now the value there is checked. That means it's true. So the UI on the other screen is simply toggling this attribute's value from true to false. And so that's what's going on.
Mhm.
And,
yeah, and it was inheriting it from the prototype, which had it
correct.
unchecked. So
Correct. So Art, you have a question?
Oh yeah, hi. I'm just a little curious. When I look at the text, there's a lot of P's.
oh look, yeah, it's doubled it up.
You know what? Okay, I do know what the wrong is. So this is where we fixed it. Good call. Now we solved the before and after problem. The
Okay.
before and after is what do you want to have before and after the P. So if you delete that, those P's will go away.
Okay.
I remember that now. Good catch. No, and then
Yep,
there
they're
you go.
gone now. So that's kind of weird, I guess. Maybe they're not gone.
No, there shouldn't be multiples, but
well, there's all right. So there's a closing, there's the beginning, and then whoops. So this
there's
is
the end. There looks like there's 2 closing for some reason.
Paragraph, first paragraph.
All right. Well, we messed with the file, so we can figure out. Any idea, Mark, what we might have done to cause that?
Mark's already responded in the chat.
Oh. I could correct the spelling error while I'm in there. I can't see
Before and
the chat.
after should be empty. Yeah, no, he made them empty. Oh, go make them empty in the prototype.
Prototype. E-post.
Yeah, take them out of the prototype.
There we go.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That's where we did it. Yeah, there's your inheritance.
Now try to go back.
This is the problem with a small screen, though I'm thinking of selling the 27-inch iMac. And then export. Nope, still there.
Well, again, we've been messing around with the notes. There could be an, oh, you've got
There's
in
one
that one.
there.
Yeah, we've been messing around with the inheritance, and maybe you didn't hit enter and delete it from the other one.
Could be enter. Yeah,
But just go look at the preview.
prototype again. Yeah.
No, or look at the preview. Just see if it worked.
Okay. Preview. Well, the preview worked. Export.
Or export, yeah.
We're down
Yeah,
to
there you
one.
go. There you go.
All
So
right.
that was it. Nice catch, Art.
Cool.
So, but while I'm still here and I got the screen up, I'll just briefly point this out. This was something I've been thinking about doing for a long time, and this file goes back to 2013, and so I've created a page from an agent that just gathers all of the posts that I've written on the 1st of February over the intervening years and puts them all together in one page. And now some of these old posts, the when I refactored, oh yeah, see, I changed some templates and I've lost some images, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I got to do some cleanup and stuff, but it was very simple to do once. I thought I was going to have to coerce a date into a string and do a bunch of regex stuff, and it was very simple to do with just I don't know what you call this, dot code, whatever, date dot code comparisons. So
An operator.
operator, yes.
Yeah,
Date
operators.
operator. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm done. I'm going to stop
Cool.
sharing.
All right. Thank you for that. That was good. And then the nice thing about that kind of, again, helps us give an example of like the back end machinations of Tinderbox and how incredibly awesome this tool is. Mr. Gale, let's talk about your little early scare this week and how quickly we got it solved.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, first of all, you all know me. So on the Tinderbox complexity scale, which I think runs from 1 to 5, this was a 1.5 intervention. Nothing too fancy here, just a teeny bit of action code. You might remember that some of you had seen I had posted a challenge with copy and paste. When you've got media sitting there in your note, why couldn't I get it to print out? And thanks to Mark Bernstein, who led us in the direction of CSS, we simply used, was it media with Michael?
Yeah, and again, since your stuff is proprietary, let me pull up a file and I can demonstrate it.
Thank you.
That way you're not
it's clean, but it's
disclosing
not 100%
confidential
clean.
stuff.
In terms of patient confidentiality. But the upshot while Michael is doing this is that, so I did use Gemini Advanced to go through about 1,000 pages of medical records. And I asked it questions like, or I gave it queries like, give me the doctors and all the dates of service for all the doctors who saw this patient and include excerpts of what they said. And that would allow me to go back and forth and to verify, since AI, as we know, by the way, I don't think it's hallucinate. I think it's confabulate. I think AI confabulates because it's not perceiving anything. It's just making up information. So anyway.
You mean it's bullshitting?
What's that?
It's bullshitting.
Well, sure. You topped me on that one. So anyway, so I had, these hundreds of entries, but what Tinderbox did that was just so phenomenal is I had it all organized and into subfolders under the notes, nested notes. And then I had the actual snippets of the medical records. Now I'm in my deposition. And, depositions, if you're an expert, it's the other side's job to make you try and look like an idiot. And that's, when you spend a few hours going around on that. Well, all I did was use query. Nothing more sophisticated than that, as they would ask me different questions and I would be able to come up, and all I had to do is remember a doctor's name or remember a keyword, and it gave me all of my different areas. So I was giving lightning fast answers. And I had offered to them, because if you're using notes to inform your position on things, you're required to make the other side aware of that, and they can have your notes. It feels like cheating at cards, but there you go. And anyway, they declined, which was just great, because I had about, I don't know, probably about 80 pages of these snippets. And so that's all I did, is I just sat there with Tinderbox on my laptop, searching just to confirm. I already knew the record pretty well, and it just made it just made all the difference in the world. I don't know that it was that impressive. What I did, the part that really made the difference was my struggle being able to have pasted graphics in there and have those appear. And once I could do that as a PDF file, or I think that also came out as RTF just fine. So anyway, that was it.
Right.
I am
So-
planning to enhance. And did I do a good job at the deposition? Other than the fact that I got an immediate phone call with an attaboy from the attorney, they went and sent me another case the next day. So I think that's the I think that's the proof. So
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and demonstrate the problem though. So let's say, and again,
Yep.
this is a very simple test file. So someone pulls up a Tinderbox file and starts randomly throwing some stuff in, right? In this case, there's some text and there's an image we tossed in and such. And Bruce's problem was his source images were so large that they were going off of the screen. And so when he was rendering them, it was impossible to really read it. Plus, when you're in this context and you went hit paste, and this again, my image is properly formatted, so it's gonna work fine. You can paste as. Let's throw it in the downloads file, for instance, downloads file. Right, I can paste as, go to here, open up my downloads file somewhere. Downloads test 2, and whoops, that was the bill I had this week, and it comes out, and yeah, because of the insurance flyover, the Safeco flew their drone over my house and then promptly canceled my insurance but didn't tell me why, and it turned out I had branches over my roof and debris on the roof, and it took a few days for them to actually tell me what the problem was, and then $4,000 later we have the trees cleaned up and all that. So that's what that receipt was. So the problem Bruce had was when he was printing this out via PDF, the images, like half of the images, were going off of the screen. And I didn't know this, and Mark Anderson didn't know this prior to Mr. Bernstein weighing in. There, when you're, and again, my typical method is not to paste images in Tinderbox notes, but it's perfectly fine that when you do it, especially with the last few releases, it's made a lot more efficient. So when you go preview the note, you see the image, but let's say you wanted that image smaller. And so if you see like how much bigger this image just got, in Bruce's case, that image was going way off the side of the screen.
Yeah, it was truncating.
How do you do that? So the second you hit preview, and let me delete these notes just so you can see this. The second I hit preview, Tinderbox will automatically drop in its hints, its prototypes, and its template capabilities. And so what it's doing is it's adding in the action and HTML prototypes. It's adding in the preview template, and it's adding in the hints folder. And if you look at the preview template basically says when you're previewing a note, put in the header information and process the text. But more importantly, this is what triggered it for us here. Look at hints preview style.plain. So if we go to that file here, we can see the style sheet that preview is taking up. So if we change this from width 100% to like width 300 pixels, and I now go preview that note, you'll see it's now smaller. So you can actually, and I did not know this, and nor did Mark, so he's going to document it and put in ATB ref now. You can act for embedded note images in a Tinderbox file. The style sheet that you're using will pick it up. So that's how you can manipulate the style with the built-in preview function. Let's say you've got an HTML template in here. Well, you could do something, and this is what we ended up doing for Bruce. And it was kind of cool because we learned something really fun last week. So we went here and we said style, and we put in the closing tag. And because Bruce didn't need it to be pretty, it just needed to be functional. We just went in here and threw this in and we said image. And you don't need the spaces, but for human readability, it's nice to have it. You say image, and you say width equals, say 1000 pixels just to demonstrate the difference. So now we're going to apply this HTML page to this item. And because we've got an HTML page that has cascading, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to select all of these notes. Hang on, where's my inspector? My inspector is somewhere lost on my screens. So I'm going to select all of those notes and change the template from preview to HTML page. And so now when we look, and because we're using, we can look at it at the individual page. And I think I did something wrong here. Yeah. So, and you're seeing that the picture is bigger, but let's see. Oh, it's not equals, it's colon. Right. This is where syntax matters. So now if we go up here, you see I've now got 1,000 pixel image. And if I go back to the style, the page, and I make it 200, you'll now see I've got a 200 pixel image. Now, the one thing to be aware of when you're doing this is, let me just randomly grab another image off my hard drive.
Now, Michael, we also did one other thing though, where we were referring, I thought, to a prototype, and we just created the attribute media width, and then we typed in the value.
Well, we did, but that we started to do that, but that didn't work, and I'm going to explain why. Right? That's where we got busy. That's where we got busy, and that's where we got busy, and we kind of ended the call quickly because what we realized was in doing this. So here's another big image that we're pulling into the document. And we can size it down smaller using the template that we've just talked about. And this one is currently using the preview template. So let's give it the HTML template. So now it's going to be the smaller. It's picking up the style sheet that we're having from this file. Now, the issue being though is when you're doing it in this method, the style sheet will, and the style sheet will apply that width size to every image in the file. So if you're to what Bruce was starting to talk about, if you're, and again, Mark Bernstein can correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is correct. If you're wanting to have different size styling in your image, then what you'd want to be doing is using a different approach where you're actually embedding within the file. And I'll manually do this right now just so we can have another example. And normally you'd want to do this in the template, but you would typically do something like this then. Smart quotes. Right. So if your template was serving up your image like this, image source equals, and let me get a path for another image. Here's a path for another image. Copy. And turn off smart quotes. Right. And then you'd say width equals, and this is what Bruce was talking about. Media width. And we'll make that a string. We'll say equals to value quotes value. And actually, for the sake of argument, we typically wouldn't do it here. Well, you could do it here like this. We'll do it both ways. We'll show you this media value, and we'll say media width, quote, and image. So if you do that, and we'll say the media width is 600 pixels, right? So if you do that, when we render this picture is going to be 600 pixels. If we do it to 1500 pixels, oh, again, because I'm not using a prototype, have it rendering with the rate. There we go. So you're able to see that we can manipulate and change the media. Again, the reason why this is not working is here's the problem. I'm trying to force the image to be 1500 pixels, but the style sheet is overwriting it because this template is making all in the style sheet. This template is making all images 1500 pixels. So that's why this method doesn't. This kind of universally works to get something done quick and dirty. But if you want to be having different image sizing for different images, you would do something like this. Let me remove this then. I'm going to take this. I'm going to leave that in there. Let's create another one. We'll call this one 2. to just so we're and we'll post this file up later for people to play with. So by doing that, if we remove the style now out and we leave that in when we render this file now with the HTML2, you'll see now I'm getting the 1500 pixels. So that's how you would start manipulating your ability to have individual sizing for images versus the holistic application of the style sheet. And that's the part where we were getting near to the end of that to try to do that in the template we were doing with you, Bruce. And you're like, dude, I got to get my work done. Let's do that later. And we promptly shut off and you were successfully able to get finished. And that's the fun thing with Tinderbox is it doesn't have to necessarily always be perfect to still be able to get your work done. I think that's all I wanted to say with this. Is there anything else? No, I think that's it. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to say with this. So the other thing to keep in mind when you're playing with CSS styles is, let's say I've got a folder here and I call it CSS folder. And I'll say my CSS standard. I don't know, give it a name. So let's say this is the standard file where I want to manage my CSS. So if I do this, I can, and let's say I'm going to now pull this styling out of here and I'm going to put it in here. So the other alternative way of doing this is to say, using the export code, you can say value text. Well, the text of put in the quotes and close value. So the value of what? Well, I want the value of this note. I want the value of the note named CSS style. So if I go ahead and put that in here and say, when you're, hey, Tinderbox, when you're processing this file, go grab the text from the note named CSS standard, insert that in here and apply it. So now that we've done that, when I run this now, if I changed it to 2 again, let's see, did I text CSS? Oh, I need one more parenthesis there. And then you see everything's back to 200. Because what, and if we look at the export, like what we just learned with Dave Rogers, is that putting in the value inserted the body of the text from CSS standard into the text. And so that's how you, and so I have like 35, 40 different style sheets that I use for different projects. And so then, and what I do is I actually have an attribute called CSS style. So let's do that as an example. I can do here and I can say CSS style. Okay, so we're going to create that attribute as a set for the fun of it. And let's say this is 1. And for fun, we'll just call this one 2. I'll make this one 600 pixels. And we'll go in here and we'll change the export code that says, if CSS, if CSS style does not equal empty, then we want to say use the value of CSS style. Else, use the value of CSS standard.
You have to misspell it properly
Yeah.
because you have it misspelled in your other.
Yeah. CSS standard, and then we end the F.
No, standard.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Yeah, I got it. Standard. No, let's get the proper spelling. I know. Let's get the proper spelling.
Okay. Oh, you're fixing it that way. Okay.
Yeah. When in doubt, fix it at the source. Don't propagate an error. That's the other thing I've learned. through doing this. Standard. Okay, that's right. So essentially now by saying this, and this is export code doing conditionals. So I'm saying if CSS style does not equal nothing, then I want you to use the style from that I'm putting from this note. If it does equal, otherwise, I want you to just use the standard note. So let's go up here and remove that. So it's currently equal nothing. So our expectation is that it's going to use the, and I got another error in the template. C. If CSS, oh, do I need parentheses here? I don't remember. Let me double check. Let me look at one of my other files. Just to make sure I'm doing it right. Come on. Oh yeah, this got to be in parentheses. So if, so that operation has to be in parentheses. So if CSS style equals nothing, then do this stuff. So this should work now. Oh, there we go. So it's nothing. So it's using the standard CSS, which we weren't on. Okay, I'm missing a. This is what you get for doing stuff on the fly. If CSS style equals nothing, then do that. And do, let's just break it up. So that's the first if CSS style equals does not equal nothing. Then what I want you to do is get the value of the text CSS style. Oh, that's the problem. CSS, oh, yeah. I'm missing an S. That's it. Typos are killing me this morning. So if that works. It's CSS, I'm missing a quote maybe. Is this where, this is what, how using the export code really helps to debug it. Value text equals, else get value CSS. Oh. That should work. Oh, no, there you go. That's what's happening. Value text. There you go. That works. So essentially saying, go grab the text from the style that I'm going to name if it exists. Otherwise, just grab the standard CSS standard. So if I do that now, you'll see they're all 200. And if we go here, it's grabbing me my 200 one. But now if I say, no, 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 I want you to use this one instead. So now I'm getting the one that's bigger. So that's a way for you to be able to kind of manipulate your standard CSS in that context. And then we have the other alternative of that we explained before, where you could have your template feeding up images in this way too with tags, and that's a whole other process that we could spend time today too doing, but I don't know if anybody wants to do that. So that's a really quick and dirty look on playing with image sizing in Tinderbox. Anybody have any thoughts,
Very
comments,
cool.
questions? Sorry about the typos.
Very cool.
I'm sorry,
It's
Mark.
also- No, I was just saying it's really cool, and it's also helping me a lot to sort of understand the inner relationship and where all the the background stuff, the buttons and the options in the inspector really do stuff. It's
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and actually, while we're at it, if you guys don't mind, let's just anybody mind if I just play with this one more evolution of this, or do you want to move on to something else? I'll assume silence is golden.
Yeah,
So
it's good.
if you say T media here, right? So I'm now gonna create a media template, because I will, if like in the case of like Bruce, if it's quick and dirty, I'm gonna throw HTML into a note like this. But that's fine to do, but it's not necessarily as productive. So if I go here and I'll create a prototype called P media. And you all know I love my resources folder. So I'll do this, and then I'll call this one my images folder. And then in here, I'll create an image called big test image. Okay. And now in my T media file, I'm going to stick this in here. And we're going to make this super easy for now. We'll say value equals media path. Value equals media path and value equals media width. So what we're doing here in the T media template, we're telling Tinderbox when I'm called, grab the value of media path and grab the value of media width and insert this media into the note. So with that in mind, I'm going to go here. And I'm kind of doing this on the fly, so I'm going to make myself possibly a little nauseous. Let's see. Let me go find the media image. That's fun. Or just here. Yeah. How a picture. Yeah, we'll make that our media prototype. And we'll go up here in our resources folder and make that a media. And we'll say media path, media width. We need to create the width string. And if I go grab that image off the path of my hard drive again, because I just deleted it. All right, copy the path again. All right, so I'm now going to go up to this image and say the path of my path is here, and I always want my width to be 600 pixels. And again, if we don't want to play with the pixels, we can put this in the template here, and we say pixel. That should work. We'll double check. Okay, so that's going to say, grab my media path, put in a space, grab the width, grab that number, and then stick the word pixel after it. Let's see if this is actually going to work. And now I'm going to use my inspector and make that the T media, and it didn't work. And we look at this and say, okay, I'm getting the path and the carets coming in. That's the problem. And the pixels coming in after the quote. So this is another great way of, again, why you use the export tool. So if you're sitting here, you could spend hours going, why is it not working? Right? And you'll never figure it out unless you click here and actually see what's wrong. So what's wrong is we got an extra caret there and the pixel needs to be in between the quote. So we go to our template and we make the pixel outside of the quote. And we figure out why we have an extra caret. It actually looks fine to me. I don't know why that's, oh, so I don't need two of those. That's it. All right. So then I do this and I render it and there's our picture. And now I can manipulate the image size from the individual note. So that's that,
Right.
that's the kind of way to make that work. I'm sorry, Art, you had a question?
Nice.
Okay. Now let me show you the next cool thing that's really awesome when it comes to templates. All right. So the next cool thing with that is let's now let's play with this one and we'll make this 3. By the way, this is teaching my class, the Tinderbox 101 classes I'm doing through my 5C school has been really helpful because it's making me be more professional. Since people are paying me now for it, I'm having to be more professional and actually not just bullshit my way through it. And so it's really been helping me figure out how to teach some of this stuff a little bit better. So for those in the class, thank you. So here's another really, really cool thing that I figured out to do when managing templates. So we've got a file here that we want to be able to include in a particular project. And so I'm going to go here and put in my template. And here's another piece of export code. It's called include. And this is one of my favorite pieces of export code. So, and I actually still can remember it, and I'll spell it right. I can still remember it was July 2022 when Mr. Bernstein is like July 17th or 18th, when Mark pointed me in this direction and it changed everything for me. So this include function, if you include this into your template base, what that allows you to do is grab any file from anywhere and do something with it. So I'm going to put some conditionals around this first too. So I'm going to say if prototype equals, and I don't actually want to do it here. I want to do it on the children. I want to do it in both places. So if prototype, catch my typos if you see them. If prototype equals key media, then I want you to do an include, and I want you to end the if. Okay. Well, what's the include that I want you to do? I want you to include this note, and I want you to apply the T media template to it. So by doing that, we're going to go ahead and paste that into the child note too. Okay. So by doing that, what will happen is Tinderbox will go and dutifully process the file, and then it will say, well, wait a minute. If my prototype is P media, I want you to include this and implement me with the T media template. So let's go ahead and show, and this is not, you're going to see duplicates of the image as expected. So let me show you here, and it didn't work. Let's see, why not? Oh, because I didn't have okay, this is why. So now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to move my figure note here. So I do it in a different way, this more simplified way. So let's say my figure note is here. So now if I do that, P figure test, and I did something wrong. Let me see. Oh, I know why. Because we're using the wrong template. So if we do the P media 3 template, and now I hit preview, you'll see it's picking up, and it's showing me, it's including this image based on the fact that I did the include function, right? Because it's deciding to render that image using because right now, if you notice in the template here, and I'll put some text in here too. So you'll notice that. Okay, this is how I want to demonstrate. So you notice that in this note figure test, there's nothing in this template other than this that says to render this note as a figure. So if I go ahead and change this note's prototype to P note, and it's just so we can visually see the distinction. All right, and I'll make this prototype. Well, I'm going to make all of these notes P note. So now, and P notes template will be HTML3. So now if you render it, okay, you'll see the figure test, there's no image showing up. But if I change this prototype to P media and re-render it, the figure should have shown up. Oh, and it's preview. And this is where you get some, let me go and re-inherit my HTML. Let's go templates, reset on the fly, go like that. And if that doesn't work, I'm doing something wrong. All right, so note 5. Oh, and that's because something's wrong with my children. So it's rendering note 5, but its children's not coming through. So that's telling me that something is wrong with the children. Item HTML, item 3, HTML item 3. So the child note from this should be propagating, and it's not. And that's because It shouldn't be item 3. It should be, somehow in the machinations of my moving stuff around, I moved item below page. So now if we do that, and this should be page 3 now. And I need to, and let's just make that page 3. Okay, so now I've got my image. So if you see this, and I make that P note, and I render, there'll be no image. Because what's happening is it's just processing it as a normal note. But if I'm telling Tinderbox in the template, no, I want you to treat media notes differently, it now treats the media notes differently. And so that's what the include function does. And this is super, super powerful for when you're building more complex templates, is to kind of use these if statements in that way. And again, I apologize for moving too fast and moving some stuff around and getting things out of sync. Hopefully I didn't confuse people in doing that. And let me reset these back to their prototype. Export template should be default to the inherited from Pinot. Okay, great. So that'll work. So that's how you do that. So now we've got it. And then we go back here and we say P note. And now the image is gone. Anybody have thoughts, comments, questions about that? Or did I just all lull you into complacency?
No, I'm still liking exactly the same thing, the dynamics. I got a little bit lost in the middle, but overall.
All right, so let me
helping me a
explain
lot.
where we got lost. So let's kind of review it again. So you can so here in the HTML3, what I did was I said, let's include this statement. And the reason why we got lost is, one, I moved the cascading around. So what ended up happening was I did this. And so the reason why we're getting lost is Tinderbox was having trouble processing the children path because those templates didn't exist. And so it kept defaulting to the preview template. And then once we discovered that and we went like this, it's now got the proper path for the template. Okay, and Art, you had a question?
Yeah, so okay, I'm not. I could probably have to look this up, but I'm just wanting to understand one thing in Tinderbox. This whole idea of putting in an HTML page 3 and then having a child of it to be the HTML item, the matching one. What is the whole dynamic? Is it like
So okay, yeah, let me explain the dynamic. It actually doesn't matter. So if I did this, right, for it could be there too. But if that's the case, what you
right?
want to do is so HTML page 3 is my top level note. So think about this. When I select a note, the note that I'm selected is going to be the note that the template actions on. So HTML3 template is going to when I preview note 1 or export note 1, it's going to export it using HTML page 3.
Right.
Okay. Now, what is it going to do? Blah, 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 read stuff. If you have children, go find the note that you want to process the children with via this path or this note name. So
Right.
if
So this is
HTML3 item is not underneath HTML page 3, I just do this. I need to tell Tinderbox where it is.
right. Okay, no, so so this is as I've always thought and assumed that if you're looking at the word page 3, it just basically means at the note or the container level, like the parent note that you're directly, and if that note happens to have children, then it's going to take its cue from the item. But the word page and item are just part of like
It's made of conventions.
vernacular of, okay, cool. All right.
Right. It's whatever. It's what let's do this. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So that is now our item. And so we're saying, when you process children, go to the templates folder, go to HTML, blah, blah, blah,
Right. So yeah. Getting it now. Perfect.
right? You're
And
just
you're going
telling
to
it where to
fix
go.
that. Right. Well, got it.
Okay. And again,
Okay.
the convention is to use path because
Mm-hmm.
you can't screw up path. A note can only be in one place. So if you use a note's path, that's the note you're looking for. If you wanted
Yeah.
to, you could use note ID, or you could use note, ID string, or you could use the note name. But in
Right.
this
And so,
in this context, path is like the better approach because it's guaranteed.
okay. And so if you're like really sloppy, it actually doesn't even matter. You could just put the name of the note, and if there were no
Right.
duplicates, you would be on safe
And if
ground.
there were
Okay.
no duplicates, it'd be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Got it all. Okay. It's all coming together. Thank you.
All right. And so then, and again, so from a convention perspective, if you've got really complex nesting and templating and all of that, and it's performing for a particular purpose, I like to do the nesting like this for a couple reasons. One is it makes the outline shorter because you can collapse things. The other reason is when I copy and paste that into other Tinderbox files, everything that's dependent on that template goes with it. So that way I'm not forgetting.
Okay, can I ask an extended question in the sense that supposing I wanted to have two different types of CSS style pages or whatever, supposing I wanted to have two different items under a page, could I in the HTML page note pass an instruction for like an if then or conditional that would allow me to pick different items based on the instructions that are on at the page level?
You can, and and again, this is where I think HTML and browsers, and this is where you're now. I'm gonna. What did you call it? What did you call it when the AI does something? Confabulation. So I think I might be confabulating now. But I'm gonna
Okay.
make my best. I'm gonna make my best guess at the answer. When I've played around with this, you can stick a style. You can stick the style element kind of anywhere in a page, and it kind of will work, but it's not a standard. So for example, if I've inserted style up here, and then as the browser is reading the page and it runs into another set of styles, it will pick up and use those new sets of styles that you inserted. Not necessarily the best convention. The cleanest convention is to do everything within the header style structure, and then use style classes. And let me give you an example of that. So rather than conditioning, mixing around the styling conditionally, at different points within your text, mix the styling conditioning within your style sheet itself. So let's see if we can do an example like that without screwing it up. And so I was just actually playing with it this morning. Let me grab from my 5Cs course, and I'll pull this over here. So it's funny, actually. I was just writing up a tutorial about this just this morning. So if I'm going to go over to my other file and do this. I'm going to grab these two. Okay. So let's say we have in our style sheet standard, we want to put this in. So we're going to format images this way, but we want our H1 tags to be 20 bullet, colored blue, bold, centered, and capitalized. And we want our H1.defaults to be, and this is the industry standard for what an H1 is if you don't define it. So let's go ahead and show how we might go do that. So, and I want to make an easy way of showing that. Okay, here's an easy way of showing that. So now that I've done that, and these are all H1s now because they're children, and it's using standard. Let's use the standard CSS, and the standard one we can just delete because, all right. So you see now, because I've defined the H1 now in the style, they're all getting centered in blue. Okay. Now let's say I'm in note 5 and I'm going to hack this in. I'm going to say H1 class equals default. And I got to turn the smart quotes off. And this is where you can, oh, I already have them off. There we go. Whoops. So H1 default, hello world, H1, and then I'll say some text here. Okay, so now that because we've done that, in the style sheet, we've said H1 is always going to be blue, blah, blah, blah. But in this particular context, I want to make, and let's put some lorem ipsum text up here to make it easier. But in this particular context, I want to make H1 in this context different. So in the style sheet, I said H1.default is styled this way.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
now when I
do
do that, I get hello world. So there's an H1 and there's an H1.
Yeah.
But I've changed that hello world, and I'm getting the extra quote in here somewhere. There it is.
So you're doing all that at the note level with the sort of the understanding of the sort of the safe guideline that all the changes and all the variables you're putting in are at the note level, so you don't have to mess around with your templates, basically.
That's what I try to do.
Gotcha. No, I think it's wise. Yeah. And if you need, if something needs debugging, you can zero in on the actual note. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, technically, if you go to the prototype level, then you would know even more clearly. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah. So again, because I was just looking at it this morning. Let me find the note. If you want to learn more about this, it's my school CSS. So you can go to the CSS introduction. So this is the on W3C schools. This is the W3C's Worldwide Web Association School for HTML and styling. You can learn everything you need to learn about styling here.
You know, Michael, every few months, it's like one of those enormous garden mazes that I come across, and I go, one of these days I'm going to walk in, and then I get distracted. It's a lot.
But here's the point, though, is you can just do a web search saying, how do I get that? And just look for the one thing. So, I mean, you can certainly troll through the garden, which can be pretty and fun, but sometimes you just want to get the job done.
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, that's sort of it, that I don't actually need to get into the guts of stuff as often as that. And so that sort of made me a bit lazy on that practice front.
But my point is I do this all the time because I forget. So I'll say and you saw, I don't know if you saw my, C3 school, CSS style W3 for italic, right? I went in there and it popped me in and it says, okay, there it is. It's font -style : italic. So that's how you do that. And so now if we wanted to make all of our paragraphs italic, we can go in here. Drop that in, and I'm going to drop off the conditional because I'm going to force everything to be italic.
I see what you're saying. You just kind of
grab the piece that you want.
Yeah. As long as you have the basic structure of CSS in your head and HTML in your head, then you can paste and manipulate stuff in. Yeah. You can tuck it in. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing to keep in mind too is what's really important in the power of CSS is let me see if I can grab one out of one of my files. This is interesting. CSS also is not just for appearance. CSS is also for structure. So there's things called like div tags, and so you can use you can actually structure you can structure your entire HTML page solely with CSS. And it can get pretty complex and pretty scary and pretty nested. Using what's called div tags and other things like that. But another convention that's really popular is throwing this into your CSS. And by the way, this gets me all the time because it's not rendering properly on my screen, and then I realize why. If you throw this in, because we have mobile devices out there in the world, you can throw this in and says, like, if my screen is bigger than 768 pixels, i.e. if it's bigger than a smartphone, I want you to render text this way. And if it's a smartphone, I want you to render text that way. So now if we've done that and we render our page, so now we're bigger than a smartphone. But now if we start making our screen smaller, the text changes, or it will if we did it right. So I think I broke something in this. Let's make sure which page 3. H3 standard styles. Let's make this like 500. Title font weight, this is fine. P size 16. Size 20. All right, let's make these like size 10 just to see if we can emphasize the difference. Yeah, so see, because my screen size is bigger than 500 pixels, I'm now forcing my H1s to be smaller. And then as I get smaller and I get to smartphone size, you see it immediately got bigger. So you can actually use your CSS to have screen dependency.
Wow.
Super, super powerful.
Very powerful.
And then if you combine that with divs, that's how you, for example, and that's how web designers do it. You know how sometimes if you've got three cells side by side in a table, but then when you view that on a smartphone and the cells proceeding to the left to the left of the first one or to the right of the first one like naturally glide underneath.
Yeah.
That's all being done by CSS.
Yes, that's gotcha. Yeah. Very excellent.
All right. I'm sure we can continue down that path, but that's our unscripted CSS training for the morning.
Thanks so much.
All right, we've got about 30 minutes left. What else do people want to talk about?
Quick follow-up question from Bruce on the whole deposition thing. If Bruce is still around. So Bruce, if I understand, so you were working off during the deposition with your notes and your Tinderbox file?
Yeah, I had, repeat that.
When you were talking about the deposition, did I understand correctly that you were sort of searching within a Tinderbox file for your notes that were relevant to the questions you were being asked?
Exactly. What I had done, I had 4 fairly large sets, about 250 pages each. And so I just created a URL link and popped it up on my Google Drive, so I could keep referencing it. And then I took screenshots of relevant parts while at the same time I parsed out the data because this was a case of a high school student who was attacked by other students and wound up with a head injury and PTSD. And so I had therapist notes. I had all kinds of things to go through. And what I was trying to do was to kind of parse out my notes that related to diagnosis, parse out my notes related to treatment. And so the combination of using Gemini Advanced and popping everything into Tinderbox is how I organize things. And by having the screenshots there of the relevant part, that way I didn't have to keep flipping back between my 250-page document and not, because it wasn't really possible to OCR it. It was just a messy PDF, and I wasn't willing to take a chance on errors, from the OCR.
And so if they had asked you to provide your notes, would you have used the Tinderbox file or the pile of raw stuff you would put up on the drive?
I would have just created a PDF Tinderbox. In fact, I had that all ready to go for them.
So you noticed how when at the beginning of the session today, I hit Command P and I printed out the preview as a PDF?
Yeah.
That's what he would have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we actually practiced that together last week to make it work. We're like, oh, that
Cool.
works. That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, and the trick, I mean, it's so simple. You just, I kept trying to print it from either text or going through, one of the templates, and all I had to do was switch to preview. And the minute I switched to preview and I had the proper template with media width size, there I was. So it was very straightforward.
Very cool. And then I had this is not a follow-up to Bruce. It's a completely separate question, Michael. So if you want to go somewhere else, it's fine. About AI.
No, it's all you. No, Peter wants to do Zipthinks at some point. So, but you first, and we'll do Zipthinks.
So I was wondering if anyone has experimented with or would be interested in Mark's interested in a feature for this, which is I'm using some software with a plugin that just knows how to use the more or less the semi-standard API for large language models. And those require paid accounts for the most part right now. Although if you're running an open source one on your own computer, you don't need that. So the kind of interface that I've been experimenting with is that I can be in an application and ask it a question in the context of the document I'm working on is part of the context. And you can ask it to rewrite a section of the document you're working on. And so I think that there's a model for, I think I could hack this together with the Tinderbox and some Apple script and stuff for it. But I'm also wondering if that's sort of an interesting idea to try to explore with this so that you can be working in your Tinderbox and you can do certain kinds of AI queries to both manipulate what you've got there and to use the notes you've got as context.
So on that note, 2-3 months ago, we actually did a meetup, 2 of them, honestly, on the interaction of, or maybe 6 months ago, of a local AI, using a local AI to interact with your Tinderbox notes in just that fashion. And so you might want to go back to that meetup. But I think to your point, though, if there could be a standard API or a standard function thing, because I actually stalled Llama on my Mac this weekend or earlier this week to try to figure out how to do just what you were saying. And Detlef's been doing a lot in this area too. You're right, Mark Bernstein. Yeah, so that would be awesome. Let's figure it out.
Cool.
Anybody else have any other questions, or do you want to continue on that at all, Win, or any other comments? Or
no, I think it's a, you know, I sort of if I have some available time, which is sort of the limiting factor right now, I think I sort of know how to prototype some things with it. And I'll look back at what the other meetup did. So part of this was curiosity about other experiments around this, and whether or not it's an interesting thing to sort of contemplate as a possible feature. That's really a question for Mark. And how to make it work right is a complex question. I don't think it's an easy thing. But sort of the basic for hacking around is probably not that hard.
correct.
Yeah, my impression is that it's been quite acceptable to work this out either using APIs or a run command, and that this doesn't need me at the moment. This can be done, and Detlef certainly has been doing it quite fluently without a great deal of specialized tooling. So
And in the previous meetup, we did it too with a local
Yeah.
LLM as well.
So
Doing run
it's doable.
using run command, using run command. Yeah. Yeah. The question is like, what's the right run command, and making sure you get your curl done. And on that point, just to give a heads up, one thing I experienced just this last week in playing with, and let me give you an example what that looks like. Is you want to break up your I'll show you the example. This might save you some pain and angst. Here's this one. Let's go here, and let me fix this real quick while I do this. Which IP address? And I got to go to Google real quick, and we'll solve it. Give me 2 seconds. So if anybody, I posted it on the forum, but I really need to find a easy way to create a dedicated IP for myself. Not been able to figure that out. So if I get this here, thank you for your patience. Go here. I don't want trees one. I want this. Sorry, running into password manager issues now.
Michael, just
Okay.
if you want to talk offline about the IP address thing, I didn't fully understand what you were looking for, but there may be some ways to do it.
Yeah, I'd love that. If you can drop your email privately in the chat, that'd be great. All right. So let me show you this. So this is what I learned from Chuck this week. So I was working with a client, and we were trying to map out all of the events going on in the automotive industry. And then I was playing around with posters and wanted to have fun with it. So here you see I've got the dates or the city and country of a particular event. And so I went ahead and created a go to stamps, open that up. I created so I tried initially to write the curl command, which was what you would one of the ways that Detlef has been interacting with the open API models, all in one string. And when I did that, it kept breaking. So when you're going to, it's a good idea to construct the curl command line by line, including like a variable for the API key that you'll need to be able to communicate with that API. And so you can basically construct it in this way, and then you just execute that command, and then feed that variable executed command into the run command like this. So when you do that, essentially what this is doing is this is saying, go grab the address for this particular event, and then populate the lat long data into the yep, there you go. And then populate the lat long data into the event. And I clicked off to another note. And so now once I've done that, I then have another item that says a template that I built that's and again, I'm using that nested methodology that I was showing you earlier, but this template says, I should go here. This template says, where's my Google Maps overlay? So now go grab all of these events and render those events on a Google map. And I specialized the Google map, the template in Tinderbox that actually not only drops the keys, it lays the name of the event next to the pin and also creates an interactive pop-up that I can do that if I then click on the link, it will actually go open up that web page for that event. And all of that is kind of using that run command, curl command that would be the same thing you would be doing when you're talking to either the local or public API model. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so the key for me that was, don't try to do the curl command all in one string. Break it up into its pieces, because what ends up happening is the single quote, double quote things gets messed up and it gets really confused. So if you do it line by line, you get the quoting and escaping correct, and therefore it works. All right, and we got about 15 minutes left. So, Mr. Peter, what were your questions about Zipthinks? Peter, are you with us, or did you walk away to get some coffee?
He texted it, he typed something to the chat, just when best to use the.
Okay. So, there's no real best. It really depends on how you're doing and what you want to do. So if you're here, and actually let's have this file open. I can do one more media demo. Okay. So actually let's play with this demo now. So I'm going to move this big text image back to my resources folder, because one of the things I like to do is when I have a note that I've curated, an atomic note, a zettel, whatever you want to call it, that I would want to reuse possibly in future articles or books or things like that, I stick them under my resources folder. And then that way I'm able to, pull content in more locally. So one way to play with using zip links, Peter, is, and just so people know what a zip link is if you, it's kind of a Obsidian convention, I think. If you do two square brackets, that calls up Tinderbox and note taking feature, and you can say, well, which note do I want to link to? I want to link to 4, and I get note 4. So your point is like, when do you want to use it? Well, you want to use it when you want to create some internal interactive dialogue within your own Tinderbox file. And I found that and again, you don't want to experiment with the exporting and make sure it worked if you're getting into that. But if you're just using your Tinderbox file to navigate your own mind palace, that's a really, really effective use of Tinderbox. Another kind of a fun thing with zip links is if you do this and I think it's the Option key. Yeah, you hold the Option key down when you select a note. And then if you put the pipe in and say, change anchor name to note 3, right? So if you hold the pipe key operation down when you're doing a zip link and then close out the link, it actually gives you the ability to change the anchor name of the note. So that's another nice little affordance for leveraging zip links. Now zip links are, and then the nice thing with doing that is they actually show up too in your link pane as well. And I don't remember, we'd have to look at ATB ref, but there might be a way to put in a link type to it too, but we'd have to look it up in ATB ref.
So, but one sec, sorry, if you change the name, then the outbound link name won't match, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
If
Exactly.
you change the anchor.
I'm just changing the anchor that's being displayed. Right. Because if you look in the HTML, what's happening is it's just changed the anchor name in the HTML.
Sure. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
What is the search scope for the notes that it gives you choices about?
I think it's the whole file.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's the whole file. And then as you type, so let's put another note here. Let's like another note. If I do this, I don't know. Let's ask Mark Bernstein. What is it? Is it container based? Yeah. So it looks like the search is the container. It's not the whole file. It's looking.
I believe it's currently siblings.
Siblings, yeah. Yeah. So that's how to do that.
And it's based on, in practice, it's based on partial completion. So you type the beginning and it will show you the possible completions of your prefix.
Right. So if we put another, so watch this. If we put another note in here and it sees that and I start typing another. Oh, and I see, and as you start typing it, then we'll start looking across the whole file.
Yeah, you could put another note anywhere in the project.
Right. Got it. So it's initial. Okay, there you go. That's the answer. The initial drop down is that siblings, and if you start to type, it starts looking everywhere.
There's actually a great trick when you have a few hundred notes and you're trying to gather some of them put them into a container. Just by creating a fake zip link, you'll go, oh yeah, now I know where that is. You find it. Oh.
Yeah. All right. And the other thing I wanted to say. Good.
And this I think is more for Mark, but so an interesting thing that has happened in the Emacs world is completion packages for typing to complete things that start to match against. They just do partial matching across word segments in the entire thing, in the entire search space of whatever you've got. And the experience of that is that you can identify them very quickly. You don't have to start at the beginning for it or get them right to narrow it down. If it's got something in the note title, for example, that would be matched by what you're typing. And the user experience of it is, for me, it's just very fast against matching a whole lot of things in the accumulated pile of stuff I've got in text.
You know, I think at least for Obsidian, they have some kind of algorithm that the immediate suggestions that will pop up are the recent files you've used or the ones you've just created, and then followed by some order of importance, and they already show up.
Okay, so one other thing we just commented, and Peter's didn't mention it verbally, so I will. When people are doing zip links too, the other thing to realize is if the note doesn't exist and you type, this is a new note, go like that. If the note doesn't exist, Tinderbox will automatically create that new note as a sibling to the note that you've linked. So you can actually use zip links as a quick note creation methodology too. And I don't understand your comment, Peter, about type notes. What were you meaning by that? Let's see. Oh, link types. Well, let's look at ATB-ref and see if I don't know that it can't. It's just we didn't take the time to look it up.
No, Mark just typed above that there's no link type supported at present.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. All right. So in our last kind of 7 minutes, let me show you one other thing about doing this. So if remember, we talked about this down here in the template. We use this in this include functionality to manage that. So if you copy this, all right, when we'll copy. So watch this. So if you copy the name of the note that you want to include, and you go here, and let's do it under the zip links, and you can use the include function. And this is an incredibly important point for everyone to realize. The Tinderbox export code works everywhere, not just in templates. So if I use the include function in a body of a note, like include this image with T media, basically what I'm telling Tinderbox is surgically at this point in my document, I want you to include that image. So if I do that now and I preview it, I've now included that image in the document. So that's a way to pull items out of your Zetels, out of your atomic notes, out of your resources folder, and surgically place them anywhere in your document. And to show you and then let me show you one example over here. So if I go like this, let me pull this off the screen real quick just to make sure I don't disclose anything I don't want to. I'll do it in another file. One that doesn't matter. Yes, Mr. Art and Mr. Gale, Bruce, while I pull this up.
So sorry, Michael, you had some trick, some technique you were using that allowed you to selectively ignore any action. It's an attribute, right?
What do you mean?
Is it an attribute or some way to?
Oh yeah.
So
let me
in your
so let
text,
me
if you
show
have
you
an
this.
action.
Yeah. So it's not an action as much as it's I think you're referring to this. So let's say I've got this note 2, and I'm going to put it in P note. And I say is no show title. Right. So you basically use booleans, right? So I'm going to create this as a boolean. And in your template, we'll use template 3. So here's title. And so I say if is no show title equals true. Oh, sorry, equals false. And then and if. All right. So by doing that in the templates, and I've got it kind of honed down to an art. If I go like the and I broke something.
Yeah, there's a zero there for some reason.
Yeah, no, because it was supposed to be a parentheses. There you go. All right. So if I go like this, So, and it's a smaller screen now. So you see how it's note 2? If I make it, there's no show title, note it goes away. Right. So it's a way to be able to fine tune what you want showing in your file. And let me suppress this. It's that 10 things annoying. Let's make it 16 or 20. The other thing to think about, and this is where display expression becomes an incredibly handy in this case. So my other strategy with that is this. So if you've got a more complex file, oops, it's my email, I'm going to send a win. So if you're in the note and you go to the edict and you say, if it no show title equals true, actually, this would set one more thing up here. New display expression cache. I don't like doing action code in the display expression itself. So we go here and make, because it can really bog the system down. Because every note, as the note refreshes, it tries to refresh the display expression there. So if you do it
I remember
here,
you had gone through this with us.
right? So if you do it here, if no show title equals false, then display expression cache equals the name, else display expression cache equals the name plus space bracket quote plus sorry, no. All right, that should work. Now if I do that, so that way when you're scanning your outline, you can see if that title's not going to show up when you run your report.
Yeah. That's what you had done in your book. I remember now you're going through this with us. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. So, and then to demonstrate what I wanted to show you earlier, I've done some really fun macros with this. So if, this is the book that Mary Beth and I are working on, but if I go grab an image name, I don't know, the GSM economy like you guys saw before. So if I grab an image name and then randomly create a note here, test note, I've got a text expander set up. So I go like this, include fig, and text expander will automatically take what I've copied on the clipboard and insert an anchor for the HTML, insert the include that we just talked about, but it will also then run an add figure label command, and which is the macro that I have running. So when I go do that, it will automatically not only include the image, but actually automatically insert a caption for the image. And if I've got another Boolean that says number the images, it will automatically go through the entire file and automatically number the images by section.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
So that's the kind of the more advanced ways about doing that.
Yep.
All right, we are exactly at the top of the hour. Any other thoughts, comments, questions before we end for the week?
I had a comment, but we are at the end of the hour and there's nothing
we got time. It's fine. Yeah,
but
go for
I'll
it.
just plant it. The idea of taking your text and images and wrapping. And my question for next time, if you will, is do you wrap do you wrap separate notes, or do you have to have the text and the pasted image together? Because all of the images as I've seen them, it's following the text. But if you want to,
well, remember that's a CSS,
right?
So
right.
so you can apply a CSS called wrap text.
And the other thing, I would highly encourage people to look at the article that Mark dropped in, Mark B, because I saw things like balanced text and other things when I took a quick look, and I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, and the other thing with images too, which is really fun, is like with CSS, you know, when you mouse over the image, you can have the image turn gray. You can have a border put around the image. You pretty much can do anything. You can change the image's opacity. There's just an infinite number of little properties you can be changing across all of the elements that you have on a page using CSS.
Well, I don't want to prolong. Thanks for today. There was a lot of good information covered.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great week. See ya.
Hey, you guys too. Thank you. Bye.